What is up, guys? It's Jimbo here, and welcome to my updated Endgame melee Bladerunner build. We're using katanas, throwable weapons, and all that good stuff. So let's talk about the build, because the footage that you're seeing on the screen right now is me going up against the police and the max tac on hard difficulty. Yes, I said hard, not very hard. If you want to go into very hard, you do need to make sure that you have everything at +5, like 5++ when you want to go up against max tac. I think anyway. I think some people will maybe disagreeing, but I had a pretty good challenge, at least with this difficulty anyway, and it will shred most of the content in the game, but some of the elites and such in the game will cause you some issues with obviously the build, because the game gets harder. But this build is awesome. It's so fun. On any difficulty, I recommend using it. The katana, dancing around using the sandevistan, throwing it all over the place is recommended. So let's go through the cyberware, the skills, and also the recommended weapons, and then I'll give you some tips on the build. Now let's talk about skills. The first thing to note is I'm level 50. The new level cap is level 60 in Phantom Liberty, and also you'll get perk points and attribute points obviously as you level up. The thing with perk points is you get an extra 10 from your skill progression. You get 5 at 15, and then you get an additional 5 when you get all the way up. So I am actually missing some points. I'm missing 1, 2, 3 extra points that I could be using in the build, but that's not too much to worry about. And you do, I would recommend here for my specific version of the build that you go 20 reflexes, 20 cool, and also 20 technical ability. You will be able to get an additional few points into body when you are playing. I would recommend that you get it up to maybe 15, but I won't be focusing on that entirely here. I'll probably be able to get something like adrenaline rush or juggernaut or something along those lines later down the line. But let's go through the tree. With body, I do have painkiller, speed junkie, and army of one. These are great for health regen. In the reflexes tree, where a majority of our points are, we do have the 1 point in stunt jock. This is not required for the build, it's just nice to have. But we have slippery, dash, air dash, and tailwind, and we have the associated things, especially the aerodynamic. This is very good, and also being able to dash in midair. And tailwind is amazing because you don't cost stamina when you're in midair as well. And I haven't gone for the extra slide distance or anything on these, purely because I don't see myself sliding as much or shooting that much, so I don't need them. Likewise here, I don't need to shoot while I'm dashing. I do have can't touch. This is very good, 100% mitigation chance, which I do recommend using. We also have mean streak, which is we get +40 stamina after neutralizing an enemy while dashing, and then also the dash range is increased towards enemies. Flash and thunderclap is very good because it allows us to leap towards enemies with our katana. Definitely recommend that. We have lead and steel going into Bladerunner, into slaughterhouse. Essentially, bleeds won't kill enemies, but do make them susceptible to finishers. And we get 25% stamina or 25 stamina every time we dismember enemies as well. So counterattacks, deflected bullets, apply bleeding as well, which is great. We can finish enemies as well with the Bladerunner, and also get a crazy amount of attack speed. We also get finisher range. We also get ourselves enemies become more susceptible to finishers, and then we have flash of steel, which increases our movement speed and attack speed after we performed a finisher. Then we go into lead and steel. We go back in through this tree. We have seeing double, increased damage and stun chance with counterattacks. And we also have bullet deflect, which is so good for keeping yourself alive. And then also bullet time for being able to do it while we are slowed. When time is slowed, we're able to hit things for crit damage and not consume stamina whenever we are deflecting. Into the cool tree. Once again, not required, but Road Warrior is something I've picked up. You don't have to pick up the Vanishing Act or Creeping Death because we aren't going to be using optical camo in this build. Feline footwork is very good because this gives us mitigation chance, which is basically just damage reduction. Into ninjutsu, which allows for sprint crouching, mitigation chance, and crouch movement speed. Very good. And I have the associated one here, shinobi sprint. And then I've got everything pretty much here. I'll probably end up getting finisher, act of mercy, and also pounce, because this allows us to essentially perform a finisher on an enemy that is from a really far distance away with a throwable weapon. Style over substance guarantees critical hits with throwable weapons when we're crouch, sprinting, sliding, dodging, or dashing. Movement speed penalty when aiming a throwable weapon. And essentially, this tree is all about buffing our knife. We have Killer Instinct, which allows us to do a bunch of damage to enemies while we're silenced, and these two basically stop them. We also have Scorpion Sting, which applies poison when we do critical hits. And then Juggler allows us to instantly reset our knife whenever we get a crit hit, headshot, or applied poison. And I think it's very, very good. And I think it's amazing. And I love doing this because you can just chain this alongside Sleight of Hand and also pay it forward are very good. The technical ability tree is all about getting our cyberware up. Basically, you get all things cyber, license to Chrome, extended warranty, and also cyborg. Edge runner is not required, but it may be required a little bit later on if you want to max out all of your cyberware, which we're going to talk about in a moment. Likewise, Renaissance Punk and Chrome Constitution are the most important in this tree. Let's talk about the cyberware. So with the cyberware, we have the Militech Apogee Sandevistan. You can get this when you get to level 50 from vendors. And you can also get the Falcon one as a random drop. I had this drop at a certain area. You can go to a certain area in the game and potentially get this to drop as well. But I had this drop from a random chest in a gig. And then I went and bought the Militech Apogee. The Apogee is better because it gives you 85% time slowed down and 20% extended duration whenever we kill an enemy, which is fantastic. We're basically stacking a bunch of crit damage as well here. If we go back out, we have Newton model, which allows us to instantly get a cooldown reduction on our cyberware, so it plays into the Sandevistan. We have Mantis arms because, hey, Mantis arms are fun. And then basically here we're getting a bunch of armor and the extra perks that you'll get on it. Well, don't really play too much. It's just the armor that we want here. So bionic joints, dense marrow, and parabellum. On the circulatory system, you do want to get yourself something like heal on kill and also micro rotors for those melee attacks. You can go with a second heart here instead of adrenaline booster. It's entirely up to you. Reinforced tendons allows us to do double jumps. And then basically we have a bunch of armor here. We have Pain Editor for damage reduction, Proxy Shield for damage reduction, and then also this gives us more armor for the subdermal armor. And then the nervous system is basically whenever we slow things down, for example, it plays into it. So when we use the Kreznikov, it slows time bound by 60%. The reflex tuner is amazing because whenever you drop to 25% health, you will get 4.5 seconds of slowdown time that you can use to heal yourself. And then Stabber gives you a bunch of additional crit damage with blades and throwable weapons. But that's the cyberware. Let's talk about how you play the build, the weapons, and all that good stuff. So let's talk about weapon choice here. I am going to be using the Nihan for my throwable weapon. It is very good. It deals bonus melee damage, and it also has a very good damage multiplier to the head. Similar to, you can also get the Stinger as well. I just prefer using the Nihan because it allows you to use hemorrhaging if you hit a bleeding enemy, which allows you to regen. Now, there is a lot of katanas in the game that you can go with. There's the Byakko, which I've already covered in a previous video. This is very good if you're going to be killing a lot of enemies and you can perform a rapid combo on enemies, and can be very good if you combine that onto an elite. The damage does fall off though. There's also the Jinshu Maru, which I've been using quite a bit. The last hit with this guarantees crit damage, which is very good. If you have optical camo, which you don't have in this build, all hits are critical and allow you to leap towards your target. And also it increases damage against elite enemies as well. I have this at tier plus at the moment, but you could use some other options. That being, there's the Black Unicorn, which you can get, I think, for cross-merging one of your accounts. There's also the Cocktail Stick, which is very good, but the only problem is you have to use optical camo. We have the Errata, which deals additional crit damage to burning enemies, which could also be very good. There's also the Satori, which I have used before in the beginning of this build. The only issue with the Satori is that it has to be away and then has to come out as a quick attack to get that hemorrhaging, which I think is a little bit of an extra step compared to the other ones. There's also the Scalpel, which is very good. It does increased electrical damage, and it also does, while you're using the sandevistan, it increases the crit chance by 50% and hits apply bleeding, which we already do anyway, so this could be also an option that you have. There is also the Gwynblade. The Gwynblade is the Witcher weapon that's been put into the game, and it's absolutely busted. I might use this if I want to do some clips with it later on in the video, but essentially you deal extra damage against bosses. After killing enemies in rapid succession, all attacks are temporarily guaranteed crit hits. The effect refreshes after killing an enemy, quickly killing another enemy. If your health is critically low, all attacks are guaranteed crits regardless of kills. It's busted. It's so busted. I don't quite remember how you can get this. I think it's if you pre-ordered Phantom Liberty. But yeah, if you want to go full katana, I think the Jinshu Maro is probably the best option that you can get, and you can get this from fighting Oda in one of the main missions of the game. So yeah, that's where you're going to be able to get hold of it. As for weapons in the third slot, you can use whatever you want because we're mainly going to be using the katana and also the knife. So my main gameplay tips on the build is you need to make sure you're always moving. What the advantage of having a sandevistan is at the start of any encounter is you can take out a bunch of the grunt enemies super quickly and destroy everything without even getting seen sometimes. So especially if you go up in difficulty, which I'm planning on doing to go into Phantom Liberty just to have a little bit more of a challenge, is that I'm going to be using the sandevistan to block things out of the way, take out some high profile enemies as well. The throwing knives coming back super quick is amazing as well, and it's all about movement, making sure that you are keeping an eye on your stamina so you can block shots back. Sometimes you'll have full stamina, and when it's one enemy left, I like to toy with them. I let them fire their shots into me, and then I deflect them back, and then I end up finishing them as well. I love this build so much, and I'm so glad that melee builds are a thing in the game right now. I'm going to be doing another one potentially with gorilla arms and just absolutely beating the snot out of everybody. But for this build specifically, also with the mantis blades as well, I really want to see how this build evolves when I get into Phantom Liberty. I will hopefully get through that DLC so it gets like the point of no return and get all of the relic points and see how it plays there, because you do get the added effect of being able to pounce with the mantis blades an insane amount of distance as well. So combine that with all of the crits that we're doing with the melee as well, and whatever options you want to go with, it's just crazy. And I love this build so much, and I can't wait to improve on it and make it better and show off some more builds in the game. So I'm having a lot of fun with Cyberpunk right now. And if you are enjoying the content, please make sure you leave a like on it. If this video has been informative, leave a subscription down in the comment section. I'll try and leave a link to the build planner below so you have something to follow as well. I'll make sure I do it all the way up until at least it allows you to, that's not in Phantom Liberty, and then I'll maybe make an updated guide on this when I hit max level as well. And as always, this has been Jimbo, and I'll see you guys next time.